Hi, my name is Christian Mason, and my crisis case study is over Starbucks today. I'm going to go over a little background about the Starbucks. It is an industry considered to be a restaurant. It is a public company founded in 1971. It's considered a global coffee company and the number one at that. A couple fast facts about the corporation. They have 29,000 plus stores around the world. They employ 277,000 people worldwide. And for the 12th year in a row, they have been named one of the world's most ethical companies. Their mission statement is pretty simple. It's to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. Here is a timeline of the racism crisis that Starbucks went through earlier in the year and back in April, with Dante Robinson and Rashawn Nelson were caught on tape being arrested at Starbucks for trespassing when all they were doing is sitting inside the store and they hadn't ordered anything. About 2 days later, after it went viral, Starbucks apologized to them via Twitter. And then about 4 days later, they also said on Twitter that they will close 8,000 plus locations to hold a racial bias training. About a week later, the CEO, Kevin Johnson, met up with Nelson and Robinson and apologized face to face and discussed corrective actions with them. And then in May is when Robinson and Nelson settled with Philadelphia for about $1 each because they wanted to spend the rest of the money for a program for young entrepreneurs. This same time, Starbucks offered full tuition to both of them to ASU, which is also a program that they offer to all of their partners. May 29th, Starbucks closes nationwide for a 4-hour training session, and it costed about $17 million in sales for that day. This graph shows the financial impact that this crisis had on Starbucks. As you can see, they were doing pretty good at April 12th, but after that, it dipped a little bit and then went back up and dipped a lot more about 2 weeks after the incident, and then a lot more about a month afterwards. It kept on going down with all of the allegations coming out and the press releases. There was a lot of talk about it. The sort of crisis that Starbucks had would be considered a faux pas, which is an unintentional action which is transformed into a crisis by an external actor, or in this case, an external customer. Some suggested crisis communication strategies for this specific crisis that happened with Starbucks is acceptance as the first one, which is accepting responsibility for the crisis. And then some subcategories of acceptance are a full apology, which is simply apologizing for the crisis and accepting the blame. Remediation, which is a tactic of announcing some form of compensation or help to the victims. And repentance, which is a tactic for asking for just forgiveness. Another category would be accommodative, which is a claim promising to prevent the crisis from recurring. And then a subcategory of that would be rectification, which is a tactic of taking corrective action to prevent a recurrence of the crisis in the future. Next, I'm going to go over some public statements that Starbucks came out with after this crisis happened, with the first one being about 2 days after the crisis on their website. And as you can see right here, it's just the CEO coming out and apologizing to the partners and the customers about what had happened in Philadelphia. And 2 places you can find that is where there is a full apology saying, first, to once again express our deepest apologies to the 2 men who were arrested. And then also another crisis communication strategy they had was rectification, which shows right here, we have immediately begun a thorough investigation of our practices. The second public statement they came out with was also on their website, and it was mostly just announcing what they were going to do with the corrective action and how they were going to accommodate, with the one being a rectification, which they say right here that they are closing more than 8,000 company-owned stores in the United States on the afternoon of May 29th. And the next strategy in this was another full apology from the CEO, Kevin Johnson. The third public statement was also on their website about a month later after the crisis, and it was Starbucks coming out again and talking about the agreements they came to and what else is going to happen in the future. And a couple strategies was remediation, where Dante Robinson, Rashawn Nelson, and Kevin Johnson, who's the CEO, reached a settlement agreement earlier in the week for both sides to move forward. And then also a strategy was repentance, where the CEO, Kevin Johnson, said that he welcomes the opportunity to begin a relationship with them to share learning and experiences. Their fourth public statement they came out with was actually on Twitter, and it was the day that they closed down 8,000 of their stores for training. And their tweet said, "For several hours this afternoon, we will close stores and offices to discuss how to make Starbucks a place where all people feel welcome. Thank you for your patience and support as we renew our promise to make Starbucks an inclusive gathering place for all. See you tomorrow." This was a strategy of rectification. Next, I'm going to discuss a couple of strengths and weaknesses that Starbucks had throughout this whole crisis, with the first strength being they apologized continuously to the two victims and also met face-to-face with them. The second strength was closed all corporate stores for training, and they closed over 8,000 plus stores for racial bias training and included the NAACP and Equal Justice Initiative in their training program. But a couple weaknesses that I saw were they apologized through social media first, and I know a lot of people would say that they should have met face-to-face first. And the second one is that they only trained corporate stores. They did not close any of their licensed stores, which counts for roughly about 20,000 stores out of the 29,000. A couple of recommendations I would give Starbucks for this crisis in particular is the first one being reassessing their bathroom and buying policies, meaning that people who want to come in and don't want to buy something right away can sit in there and they don't have to be forced to buy something. The second recommendation would be to apologize to Nelson and Robinson, which Starbucks did do. And then the third recommendation would be to announce corrective action to the public, which Starbucks also did do. We are now at the end of the presentation, and I just want to recap how the type of strategies Starbucks did and how much of an impact that it left on the whole industry as a whole, because Starbucks was able to close over 8,000 stores, which a lot of big corporation companies wouldn't say that they would do. So that would be something that I saw that was good in this crisis and the way they reacted to it. I hope you learned a lot today from this crisis communication case study, and thank you for listening.